Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. We are doing it live and doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson here on 790 KBC and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. Mottek On Money, live on the air, 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at kbc.com and your on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, kbc.com. Apple, iTunes, YouTube, all of your favorite podcast platforms. What a week. We saw a big finish today on the upside, a triple-digit gain with the Dow popping nearly 700 points at the closing bell. The stock market closing sharply higher today, rebounding to mark the end of what's been a rough and tumble week in which we saw the S&P 500 move into correction territory with the tariff news coming in fast and furious fashion. The S&P 500 climbing today 117 points, settling at 5,639. The Dow rallied 675 points, settling at 41,488. And the Nasdaq jumped 451 points, settling at 17,754. The price of gold also popping to a new all-time high above $3,000. The economic calendar was pretty light today with a report from the University of Michigan, the big consumer confidence survey, which got a lot of attention, showing consumer confidence this month plunged more than expected. For the week, we did see the Dow close down 3.1%, the S&P 500 gave back 2.3%, and the Nasdaq dropped 2.4%. We did see the Dow rack up its biggest weekly loss since March of 2023. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq down for the fourth week in a row for their longest losing streaks since last August. NVIDIA shares did move up today along with the Magnificent Seven names. We see NVIDIA stock did move up more than $6 today at $121 and change. Apple also higher by nearly 4. Tesla moving up more than $9. The S&P 500 joined the Nasdaq in correction territory yesterday after coming in with a close of at least 10% below the previous peaks. We did see the big tech names in focus this week, but looks like they rebounded. One comment that caught my attention certainly was the comment from Edward Yardeni of Yardeni Research, noted that the rebound was coming amid a lack of any remarks by President Trump on tariffs. And he said any day when we don't have a comment on tariffs, it appears to be a good day. Joining us live now to wrap up the week, we have Matt KRANTZ, Finance and Management Editor at Investors Business Daily, the authoritative business news publication. Matt KRANTZ, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you with us. Hope you made it through the week okay. You follow this bouncing ball minute by minute. We had triple-digit moves pretty much every day this week, mostly lower, and this big rebound today. Give us your assessment of what just happened here.
Yeah, so it's all about tariffs, as you were talking about earlier. I think people feel a little bit of a buyer's remorse. When Trump first was campaigning, he talked a lot about tax cuts and growth. Now we're hearing about tariffs, and he's picking fights with our friends like Canada. And I think a lot of people are kind of quietly asking themselves, what the heck? This isn't what we signed up for. So I think you're totally right. Whenever he talks about tariffs, then it sells off. When he doesn't say anything, it goes up.
On there live with Matt KRANTZ at Investors Business Daily. And we heard from Treasury Secretary Bessent this week, also tried to soothe the investors' nerves yesterday, saying the Trump administration was focusing on the economy long-term rather than 3 weeks of volatility in the markets. And we did see some reaction in the bond market again this week with the benchmark yields very much in focus. The ones that impact the fixed rate mortgage rates, they've been holding pretty low lately, and that's been good news for the real estate business, which impacts, of course, the fixed rate mortgage rates. What do you see happening with the bond market in all of this?
Yeah, so we're seeing a little bit of strength in the bond market. I watched the BND, which is the Vanguard Bond Market ETF. It's up 1.4% this year. So it's stable. I do think, though, that the idea of a rate cut is more and more likely as it looks like economic growth isn't going to be as strong as people thought it was going to be just a few months ago.
Right, this whole week got started. We have to remind listeners with that interview President Trump gave to Maria Bartiromo, who the president told Maria that he could not rule out a recession, and that rattled nerves this week. What are your market monitors saying about those comments? What are you reporting there at Investors Business Daily about the impact of this and the market impact?
Yeah, so Trump 1.0 was really different. He was very sensitive to the stock market. So if he said something or tweeted something and the stock market went down, he'd say, "Oh, never mind, I changed my mind." But this time, he seems a little bit more hard-headed. And I think some of the people in his administration have basically said, as you point out, we're not looking at what Wall Street is doing, we're looking at what Main Street thinks. And Wall Street doesn't like that. And it's not what I think a lot of people on Wall Street thought they were going to get when they voted for him.
On the Air Live with Matt KRANTZ at Investors Business Daily. Certainly, we've heard the word uncertainty all week long, and market doesn't like uncertainty with all this tariff back and forth, and the inflation number came in better than expected. What is the expectation here on inflation, given the uncertainty with the tariffs in the mix?
You know, I was listening to an interview with Warren Buffett, and I thought he made a lot of sense. I mean, the tariffs haven't really kicked in yet, and when they do, it's almost kind of a definition when you have a surcharge of 20, 25, 30% on a good, especially a good that's a raw material that's shipped over the border a couple of times, you're going to see higher prices. The only way you won't see higher prices is if you see lower demand, which would be equally bad. So I think if you look at a lot of the leading indicators, consumer sentiment is definitely weakening. People are afraid of inflation, and they're wise to, because I mean, when you're like, this isn't like a secret. Someone has to, as Warren Buffett said, someone has to pay these tariffs, and it's not going to be Tinkerbell. It's going to be you.
Yep. And on all this, we've seen gold rally to record highs. Gold has done quite well. When President Trump said we're going to have a golden age here, looks like that would have been a clue here. Gold rallying to record highs. Gold went above 3,000 this week and closed just below it, it looks like here, at 2,993 and change. Silver above $34 an ounce. Haven't seen that in a while. What about the precious metals and all this?
Yeah, those I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really good tell. The Spider Gold Trust ETF, which is a really huge ETF that tracks the price of gold spot, it's up almost 14% this year. That's incredible. It's especially incredible versus Bitcoin, which is down about 9.4%, and the S&P 500, which used to be the gold standard, is down 4%. And that's just the beginning of the funniness that we're seeing. So, you know, MAGA, Make America Great Again, was supposed to make America great. It's actually making Europe great. European ETFs are on fire. They're up about 14% this year. And it's ironic that a lot of the defense spending is going to be like a stimulus for Europe.
Very interesting. And, of course, the talk of a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine has also helped the European market, sending the German DAX to record highs recently, right? So a lot of things happening there, too.
Yeah, so Europe has turned into this. It's actually hilarious. People are talking about MAGA, Make Europe Great Again. It's kind of like, I think MAGA is backfiring and has been great for Europe, which has finally needed to kind of wake up. You know, they're going to expand. They're going into growth mode in Europe, so they might expand their airports, you know, spend on defense. They're going to double down on a lot of their prizes. They are leaders in semiconductor equipment, manufacturing equipment there, and also they're talking about kind of bringing Cambridge and Oxford together in kind of a Stanford-like incubator type of a situation. So I think that all this mega is great for Europe.
Very interesting. We're on the air live with Matt KRANTZ from Investors Business Daily, who takes a look at all the numbers coming in here, including cryptos, Bitcoin too. We talked about analog gold here hitting record highs. What about so-called digital gold? Some people hate that term, by the way. We talked to the biggest fans of crypto as well as the harshest critics here. And Bitcoin right now at around 84,400 or so. Ethereum has taken a big hit this week at around 1,900 here at the moment. And Doge pulled back right now, rebounded a bit today to 17 cents. What about what's happening with the cryptos this week?
Yeah, so they're down about 9.4% year to date, which is not what the Bitcoin bros wanted. They all thought that this bullishness by the Trump administration on cryptocurrency was going to be great for them. It hasn't worked out that way because what's more important is inflation. It's a more powerful force. And with inflation, people don't want to mess around with this quote-unquote digital gold. You want the real deal, and they even want devil's gold, which is called silver.
Silver above $34 an ounce, by the way. It looks like palladium and platinum also got a bit of a lift this week, so we are keeping an eye on all of that. The cryptos pulled back following, it was just a week ago. It's hard to believe that so many things have happened this week that we had that crypto summit at the White House where President Trump had the crypto leadership there at that roundtable. Discussing the future of crypto and the administration's support for crypto. And a lot of people expected crypto would get a bounce after that, but it didn't.
No, like I said, I think it's all about tariffs. It's all about inflation. And it's, these policies for crypto aren't as powerful as the force of just a 25% tariff on essential goods. So I think when it comes down to it, when people are investing their money, they look at the numbers, they look at the data, they look at the reality, and that's going to matter more than what's said in Washington.
All right, let's talk about the Magnificent One here. NVIDIA getting a pop today, up more than 6 to 121 and change. That it's been a rough and tumble week for that name. Apple up nearly 4 today to 213 and change. Tesla, which has been in the spotlight. In fact, we'll be talking more about Tesla later this hour, up nearly $10 today at 249 and change. What about the Mag 7 here?
Yeah, so it was interesting when Trump was first elected. I know I'm kind of tired of saying the T word too, but we just have to. It's such an overwhelming force in the market right now. We got what was called a Trump bump. And it was interesting because a lot of the companies that he said he was going to kind of rein in, like, the Mag 7, all rallied. And that was kind of interesting. But now this year, when the tenor has changed to protectionism and a more onerous government, it's kind of turned the other way. And Tesla is the best example of that. That stock is down 38% this year. It's just been a disaster. And it's got major competition coming from China, and they're not responding. That's just really the best example of the Mag 7.
All right, looking ahead to next week, we have a Fed meeting, right? Is that next week already? Yeah, the FOMC interest rate decision, followed by the Fed chairman's news conference right after that. That'll be happening on Wednesday. Are you expecting any surprises next week following that big meeting?
No, I think the Fed's going to kind of play it close to the vest for now. I think we need to see what happens. But we think we know what's going to happen. We think we're going to get inflation, and we think we're going to get economic slowing. We may even get a recession. A lot of people are saying the R word now. But I don't think the Fed's going to get ahead of that. I think they're going to wait and respond. And that's why I think we're seeing the odds of a rate cut rising dramatically from where it was just a few months ago.
Very interesting. We'll also be getting news next week on other parts of the economy. It looks like the retail sales numbers will be coming out first thing on Monday morning. The manufacturing survey back east, home builder confidence will be coming out all on Monday, and the blizzard of economic news continues ahead of the Fed's interest rate decision. Housing starts, building permits, industrial production, and then later in the week we'll be getting the jobless claims numbers on Thursday, existing home sales, the index of leading economic indicators coming out on Thursday. So should be a big week. And, of course, we got tariffs in the mix as well. Where do we stand on tariffs as you understand it here at the moment?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the retailers. Those are going to be a real early tell. In fact, they've already told us what they've expected because they're kind of on the forefront of this stuff. So the CEO of Best Buy was very quick in saying, this is going to raise prices, and they aren't sure how that's going to affect demand. Target's CEO also had words to say that prices are going up, and then Carrier, the maker of air conditioners, also said prices are going to go up. And that's just really the start. I think the retailers are going to be feeling it pretty quickly here as soon as these tariffs kick in. And if we get a recession, ironically, one of the best stocks during recessions is Walmart. And they're going to be really interesting because they sell everything from necessities to things you don't need. And they, too, are going to be at the forefront of the tariff battle. So they'll be quick to know what the impact has been. So that's going to be a good one to watch, too.
All right. And here's a name we haven't mentioned in quite some time and haven't even thought of. Shares of Eastman Kodak rising today by more than 4%, and they're still around. Eastman Kodak outperforming competitors on a strong trading day. Just noticed that headline. Are they still making film there? What about Eastman Kodak here?
That's a flash from the past there. I'm trying to figure out what they even do.
Yeah. Well, never mind then, because I think they're in the still making films, so we'll have to take a look at that. But suddenly they are making news here on the wires this afternoon with a gain, or the stock EK is the ticker symbol in that one. Among the market monitors, you talked to Matt KRANTZ. Any specific places where they're putting money now into or taking it off the table?
So right now, where the money's going is HUE, healthcare, utilities, energy. And that really makes sense. Healthcare, we're all going to go to the doctor no matter if there's a recession or not. So that's been the top performing sector year to date. It's actually doing pretty good. It's up about 5%. Utilities totally makes sense too. We need our internet, we need our power, even if there's a recession. And energy is the one that kind of concerns me, because the energy sector is the number 2 best performing sector this year. It's up about 5%. But we also know by studying the past 5 recessions, energy stocks tend to do the worst during recessions. So that could be the one that kind of catches people off guard.
Certainly a double-edged sword there with the price of oil coming down. Good news for consumers at the pump, except it seems here in California where prices are still stubbornly high. But nationwide, gas prices have eased. Oil hovering in the mid-60s here at the moment, down from the low 80s before President Trump took office and announced that we were going to drill, baby, drill and all that, and increasing domestic oil production. So we are keeping an eye on that. And, of course, as that oil number comes down, inflation readings have been coming down as well. So a big day today, wrapping up a volatile week here. And speaking of volatility, that VIX index, which you track closely, also had a big spike and about a 12% pullback today. What about this VIX index, and what are your thoughts about the performance of the VIX index in the face of this volatility?
Yeah, I think the VIX is really important to look at because it tells us what we can kind of feel is that people are just unsettled. You go into Truth Social and you see one thing, and then 2 hours later you see another thing. When you're running a multi-billion-dollar, multinational corporation, you can't really manage your business like that. You can't say, well, we'll change everything if things change in 2 hours. It's just not like that. These companies allocate capital for decades, and I think CEOs, as our sister publication, the Wall Street Journal, reported, are now quietly kind of grumbling that this uncertainty is out of control, and it's kind of ripples effects for investors too, and it shows up in the VIX. So I think that's the key, is this growing concern of the kind of the volatility out of Washington.
All right, what's your next column, Matt, that we can look at this weekend?
Yeah, we had a couple interesting stories. One is Elon Musk is famous for helping the government cut costs, but it turns out his company, Tesla, is one of the most bloated based on numbers of employees per revenue. So that's kind of an interesting story.
Very much so. Thank you, Matt. Matt KRANTZ, Finance and Management Editor at Investors Business Daily. Matt, have a great weekend, and thanks again for taking the call today.
Thanks a lot.
And we'll take a closer look at the action today on Wall Street, including Tesla and the whole works in just a moment. But first, the latest on your ride this afternoon on 790 KBC. Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KBC. Good afternoon. Heading into the weekend, some good news here. The stock market closing sharply higher for a change today, wrapping up a losing week. The Dow did close up 674 points today to settle at 41,488. The S&P 500 up 117 at 5,639, and the NASDAQ up 451 points at 17,754. Both the S&P and NASDAQ dipped into correction territory yesterday, rebounding today in a big way. The yield in the 10-year note now 4.32%. The VIX index, the Wall Street Fear Index, the volatility index, known as the VIX index, moving lower today by 12%. In all this, gold kissing a record high today above $3,000 an ounce. It settled up $230 to $2,993.60 an ounce. Today, a burst of, optimism after the president won the presidential election. officially evaporated based on the new consumer confidence reading from the University of Michigan's authoritative consumer confidence survey. Consumers worry about rising inflation due to tariffs. According to that new survey, the consumer confidence index falling to a 29-month low in the month of March compared to the previous reading. The so-called bond king, based here in Los Angeles, Jeffrey Gundlach, has been a gold bull for a while. He says the yellow medal will get to $4,000. MarketWatch reports the DoubleLine chief executive and chief investment officer Jeffrey Gundlach, right here in Los Angeles, telling investors on a call he hosted that gold, in his words, continues its bull market that we've been talking about really now for a couple of years, ever since gold was down to $1,800 an ounce. Tesla shares on the rebound today at more than $9 at $9.49 and change. NVIDIA up more than $6 at $121 and change. Apple up nearly $4 at $213 and change. DJT, the Trump media company stock, rebounding today up $1.04 at $20.21. Checking the cryptos now, Bitcoin down about 100 at 84,451. Ethereum down about $1 now at 1,924, and Doge at the moment at 17 cents. And now the latest news on 790 KBC.
Jim Rome takes on sports.
I've been doing this show for decades and decades and decades.
With rapid-fire takes.
Learn how to stop it, learn how to run it, or at least make a good argument. I don't even like to play. I've never fought so hard to defend something I don't like.
Scorching debates.
You can beef about anything you want. Why are you pushing me?
He's the Spitfire of sports smack.
Just so you all know, this is no one-off. This is what we're going to get every single day.
Let's go, Jim!
Let's go!
The Jim Rome Show podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Mottek On Money continues here in 790 KABC. How government money is being spent these days, getting a lot of attention lately under President Trump's Doge initiative, headed up by the richest guy in the world, Elon Musk of Tesla and SpaceX fame. Looks like the Crew 10 mission, by the way, lifted off within the last hour. A spectacular, always a spectacular sight. This is the among other things, a rescue mission to bring back the two stranded astronauts. Looks like everything looking good in the early moments of this flight. California also being scrutinized on how government money is being spent here. For one thing, federal money is being pulled back hard by the Department of Government Efficiency cuts. And California, with its $322 billion state budget, new calls for a good look at Sacramento and how state money is being spent. How is it being spent? Well, you might be surprised. Let's bring in Michael Levine now, veteran Los Angeles media and public relations guru who's been tracking all of this and a longtime friend on this program. Michael, thank you very much for coming to the line here this afternoon.
Frank, thank you for sharing your valuable audience with me. It's a privilege.
Appreciate it very, very much. And what's been catching your attention here in discussion about how state money and how state resources are being spent?
Well, I trust you saw, as I did, as many people did, that on Monday, I believe, convicted murderer Scott Peterson was injured in his prison by a fellow inmate. And so that happened on Monday. And then we were informed that he was injured by a fellow inmate after a game of pickleball. So, let me see if I understand this correctly. In California, largest state in the country, we think it appropriate, the leaders of California think it appropriate, to allow and provide for convicted murderers a pickleball court and opportunities to play pickleball all day. Now, I read this and I thought, even for California, this is really past the line of mental illness. I mean, can you imagine what the family members of the victims must feel like? Their daughters, sons, in this case, daughter, lies rotting in her grave while the murderer, or convicted murderer, is allowed to play pickleball. Paid for by the state, by the way. Who do you think is paying for pickleball? Well, the answer is all your listeners, myself included, you included, and they think this is absolutely fine, normal. So that has grabbed my attention. I think it is another symbol of the absolute insanity of some of the states'
priorities.
Thinking.
Yeah. Hopefully, it didn't pay for
Priorities
athletic
or
membership.
lack of priorities. Yep.
Yeah. Prison. It's supposed to be a prison, not an athletic club, right? I think you had made that point as well this week, and that is really, really something. Now, let me, if you can put on the PR hat for just a moment with Elon Musk. By the way, basking in the glow of a successful launch here of that rocket just now heading up to rescue the astronauts. But certainly from a PR standpoint, Elon Musk is taken a lot of flack lately. Some Tesla owners are putting stickers on their cars. I saw one of those this week that said, I bought this before we knew he was an idiot. That's what the sticker said. People disparaging Elon Musk with those stickers. And some Tesla owners are, don't like him now and are putting those stickers on there. Give us your impression, the PR impression here of Elon Musk. He, of course, also had that big event at the White House where Teslas were put on the front lawn with President Trump there, and indeed President Trump buying a Tesla this past week.
Well, I've certainly watched with surprise and shock, certain ways, what has transpired. I understand that there will be people in America, this is a very divided nation, and there will be people in America who think that Elon Musk is incorrect in doing that which he's doing, although I don't understand the logic at all. Again, I go back to, let me see if I understand this correctly. The richest man in the world, a brilliant innovator, decides to take significant amount of time and energy to patriotically assist his nation in fighting waste, fraud, and corruption in government. And yet, there are Americans who think he's an idiot. Really? Well, I don't know what to say, except I think the people who feel that are idiots. I mean, you can say you disagree, and if you don't want to buy a Tesla, don't buy a Tesla. And if you want to put a stupid sticker on your car and announce to the world that you're a moron, feel free. But I don't understand who could be opposed to that which he's doing. Now, you may say, well, I have a better plan for doing it, a different way of doing it. But the essential effort is to be deeply commended. And by the way, he's doing it for free. This is not, he doesn't need to do this. So I don't quite understand it, though it is true, and all of what you're saying is accurate.
On the Air Live with Michael Levine, veteran, Los Angeles media and public relations guru. Any other thoughts about SpaceX, of course, getting great PR, it seems, with a successful launch this week out of California. And now this big news today that I'm sure we'll be hearing about. We like to say on this program, see it tonight, read about it tomorrow, but hear it now on Mottek On Money on 790 KBC. So it looks like another spectacular success here. Hopefully everything will continue to go smoothly following the liftoff this afternoon there at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And hopefully the two stranded astronauts that arrived there on that Boeing spacecraft some time ago will be brought home safely. Any other thoughts on SpaceX, Elon Musk, and Tesla at this point?
Well, look, it's some of the things you just mentioned are miraculous, and his place in history is one of the greatest innovators in the history of humanity. Forget about the nation, is already solidified. The question becomes, how long will it take for these people who are obviously now there really is a new ailment. We certainly know about Trump derangement syndrome, and it's a real malady. It's not people are seriously deranged around this. It's one thing to disagree, but I'm talking deranged. Now there is an emerging Elon Musk derangement syndrome, and Hopefully it will correct, but it's very dispiriting. It's really, really dispiriting. As is, of course, the matter with Scott Peterson and pickleball. Who thinks that's a good idea? Well, the leaders of the state of California think it's a great idea. They do it. I didn't come up with the idea. You didn't.
Michael Rosenbaum and his Smallville co-stars take you behind the scenes of one of the greatest shows of all time.
Talkville.
I just had a flashback.
Tom Welling's here.
We're going to do a podcast
Throughout the year, we've got a lot of season ahead of us.
It's big talk.
This is good fan stuff.
Yeah, there was some good
stuff. If you're watching the
stuff.
show, this is good stuff.
Yeah.
On Smallville.
Yeah. They made it like this is the first time they've seen the guy ball.
That's hard.
I thought it was pretty
fun.
dark.
It's Talkville.
We're pumped.
The Smallville Rewatch Podcast.
You got to be a part of it.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
So there we are.
Michael, always great to speak with you. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us here this afternoon, and look forward to talking to you again soon. Michael Levine, veteran, Los Angeles media and public relations guru, based right here in Southern California. Michael, thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Out to the freeways now, 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues here in 790 KABC, and joining us live now is Barbara LAZAROFF, philanthropist, restaurateur, interior designer, and all-around wonderful person. By the way, the co-founder and owner of the renowned Spago Beverly Hills restaurant, which once again is planning for a wonderful event coming up to help the hungry here in the Los Angeles area and indeed around the world. Barbara LAZAROFF, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Thank you very much for allowing me to join you about this very important and actually very fun and festive event.
That's wonderful, Barbara.
Yes, go ahead. So
yeah,
sorry.
we want to talk about that, and tell us more about that. And you've been doing this for many, many years there at Spago, and your big event is coming up again next month. Tell us more about that.
Well, on April 13th, which is the second night of Passover, which is a Jewish event about freedom, and we have an interfaith Passover Seder. So we have people of all faiths, all belief systems, all ages, all races, people from all over Los Angeles community. And we serve in a wonderful meal accompanied by klezmer music and the West Los Angeles Children's Choir, and we have a bit of the ceremony happening. And it's really an inclusive event, and the idea, it's economically inclusive because the cost is only $300 per adult and $150 per child, and we've just raised it a little bit this year, but I've tried to keep it very affordable. And all of the money goes to Maison, which is an organization that's been around as long as this event. This is our 41st year doing this event that I created to help people, food-challenged individuals, families, veterans, children, and the elderly in Los Angeles. And I started it at Spago Hollywood when we had the original event, the original restaurant where we did the Oscar parties and whatever, because I felt that families were becoming fragmented and people didn't really know how to come together at these holiday seasons. And I also do this event to demystify other people's belief systems and traditions. And very often, Frank, it's the first time that some people have ever been to a Passover Seder, which is basically a meal where families come together and they retell the story of, the Exodus and freedom. And I think it's just so important for people to share these customs and traditions. And we raise money to help people that are and considering the fires and everything else, the need has grown even greater.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that as well. The unthinkable really has happened with hunger and homelessness getting even worse in Los Angeles area following the fire disaster this year. While we have time, Barbara, how can people get more information about the Maison event there at Spago coming up next month?
Well, the Interfaith Seder on April 13th, they can use the app 7 Rooms, and put in 7 Rooms, Spago BH or Beverly Hills, and offers, OFFERS, and it'll pop up, and you can buy your tickets there at the link, or they can actually call our private events office at Spago, 310-777-3711, 310-777-3701. It's 3711, 3711, 777-3711. It's very interesting, Frank. This morning, one of the people that was returning my phone call, and they're coming to the Seder, is an attorney, fire attorney specialist that has 500 clients in Altadena. And he was explaining that there's going to be a major lawsuit actually against Con Edison, because really what ignited the fire there, he explained this morning, was a power surge in one of their, I don't know if it's a transformer or whatever, but that's how the fire there actually began. And he was explaining he was off to do a food event there. He said these people who are, many of them without insurance, are not likely to be able to rebuild. They're going to have to wait a long time for this lawsuit to be completed. And they're living with, they don't have homes, they don't have food. It's very difficult. And many of these people are, in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And it's a very sad situation in Los Angeles. Granted, Malibu, my friends in Pacific Palisades, some of them have insurance. They found some other homes. I'm not saying that's the case everywhere. You had people living in apartment buildings and whatever. But this is truly tragic proportions. And we've been trying to feed people with this event for, now it will be 41 years, and there's other events I'm involved with. And I think one of the most important issues in Los Angeles is food-challenged families. I include in that, as I said, veterans, children, elderly, and homelessness. This city has just exploded over the years. Every time I go downtown, it's another two streets. And in the 43 years I've owned Spago, and I go downtown, I just see it expanding, and it's just so sad. Children living in tents, older folks. It's heartbreaking, Frank.
Yeah, it is, Barbara. Well, I wish we had more time, but thank you for all you do. You are an amazing, dynamic business person and philanthropist, a restaurateur, and we wish you all the best at the upcoming event there at Spago coming up next month. And again, Google it up, Mazon, M-A-Z-O-N, Spago. Will certainly get you to the right place. And Barbara Lazaroff, thank you very much. Thank you for your heart for all these important issues here in the Los Angeles area, and hope to speak with you again very, very soon. Stay tuned now for the 790 KABC News Blitz with Randy Wang, and I'll be back with more at 4 on Monday afternoon right here on Mottek On Money on 790 KABC.
Jim Rome takes on sports.
Why? Because you're not playing me.
With rapid-fire takes.
Y'all went from the Super Bowl straight to the toilet bowl. He's not over the NFL. The NFL is over him.
Scorching debates.
All the good, all the bad, all the ups, all the downs.
He's the Spitfire of sports smack.
Sorry for what I said, because it was appropriate when I said it, but I can't say it anymore, dude. You are killing the game.
The Jim Rome Show podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.